Stargazy Pie. Did you know that in certain parts of the United Kingdom, people are so obsessed with eating whole fish heads that they actually throw a massive annual festival just to bake them into a pie and eat them together? It sounds like a bizarre myth, but it is completely real. Every year on December 23rd, the coastal village of Mousehole in Cornwall celebrates Tom Bawcock's Eve, a massive party dedicated to eating Stargazy Pie. Whole pilchards or sardines are baked entirely intact, violently piercing through the top of a thick, golden pastry crust. Their dead, cooked eyes face directly upward, creating the deeply unsettling visual that the pie is actively staring back at the diner. Beyond the visual shock, there is also a strong cultural psychology behind this dish. In many coastal communities, serving the fish whole, including the head, is a sign of respect to the animal, ensuring that nothing is wasted. Historically, removing the head was seen as unnecessary luxury. Additionally, fish heads contain high concentrations of micronutrients, such as calcium, phosphorus, and trace minerals stored around the skull and brain cavity. During cooking, some of these compounds leach into the filling, subtly enriching both flavor and nutritional density. The aroma of the pie itself is intensely marine, a mix of baked pastry, briny ocean scent, and rendered fish oils, creating an experience that is just as powerful through smell as it is through sight. From a scientific and culinary standpoint, leaving the heads on is a brilliant move. The head of a sardine is packed with dense lipid stores, specifically high levels of omega-3 fatty acids like EPA and DHA. As the pie bakes in the roaring heat of the oven, the crust acts as a thermal dome. The high temperatures cause the fish fats to reach their melting point, rendering the oils out of the exposed fish heads. These intensely savory, salty liquids drip back down through the crust and into the dense potato and egg filling, injecting the entire dish with a highly concentrated umami flavor. While the locals fiercely protect this history, outsiders are often paralyzed by the presentation. The psychological barrier of making direct, prolonged eye contact with a dozen dead fish before slicing into the crust is so intense that many tourists refuse to even stay in the room while it is served. Moving from the cold Cornish coast directly to the high-end kitchens of Europe. Tête de Veau. The entire head of a young calf is meticulously deboned, laid flat, rolled tightly into a massive meat cylinder, secured with thick butcher's twine, and completely submerged in a boiling, highly aromatic court bouillon. This cooking process is a brutal endurance test that lasts 3 to 4 uninterrupted hours. Historically, this dish gained popularity in post-revolution France, where economic pressure forced cooks to utilize every part of the animal. What began as necessity slowly evolved into a demonstration of culinary precision and mastery. Scientifically, this prolonged exposure to simmering heat is necessary for a specific chemical reaction, the conversion of collagen to gelatin. A calf's head contains a massive amount of dense connective tissue. When heated to around 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius, the tough, triple helix structure of the collagen proteins begins to unwind and dissolve into water-soluble gelatin. This is why, when the strings are cut and the meat is sliced, it literally shakes on the plate. The texture itself is often challenging, even for experienced diners. The combination of gelatin, fat, and softened muscle fibers creates a mouthfeel that seems to exist somewhere between solid and liquid, something the human brain does not naturally register as typical food. It melts instantly upon touching the human tongue, leaving behind an incredibly rich, heavy, and coat-your-mouth fatty taste. Because the meat is so overwhelmingly rich in lipids, it is strictly accompanied by sauce gribiche. This sauce is a chemical emulsion, aggressively whisking the fat from hard-boiled egg yolks with oil and highly acidic Dijon mustard and vinegar. The intense acidity acts as a blade, cutting directly through the heavy calf fat to balance the palate. It is the absolute pinnacle of traditional French butchery, yet the wobbly, jelly-like texture of a boiled baby cow's face remains a massive texture shock for modern eaters. Further north, the preparation becomes significantly more brutal and stripped down. Smalahove. A fully intact sheep's head is violently torched to burn away the fleece, completely exposing the bare skin and bone, before being cleaved perfectly in half down the center of the skull with a heavy axe. The remaining half skull is heavily cured in coarse salt. The tradition of consuming the entire head is deeply tied to survival in harsh Nordic winters. During times when food was scarce, wasting any part of the animal was unthinkable. Through the scientific process of osmosis, the salt draws out the moisture from the flesh, making it an inhospitable environment for bacteria. It is then cold smoked over smoldering birch wood, a process that deposits antimicrobial compounds like phenols onto the meat, giving it a dark, golden brown color and a deeply penetrating, smoky aroma. Historically, this smoking process was essential for preservation long before refrigeration existed. Finally, it is boiled for up to 3 hours. When served, the diner is presented with the teeth, the jaw, and the fully cooked eyeball looking directly at them. Norwegian tradition strictly dictates the anatomy of how it must be eaten. The ear and the eye are consumed first. Extracting the eye involves scraping the socket to pull out the optic nerve and the surrounding adipose tissue. The eye itself contains a gelatinous fluid called the vitreous humor, which firms up during cooking, resulting in a highly challenging mix of soft, liquid fat and chewy optical muscle tissue. Moving down to the jaw, the masseter cheek muscle provides the most rewarding bite, offering a robust flavor that tastes almost exactly like an intense, thick-cut, heavily salted piece of mutton bacon. It is a harsh, uncompromising Viking survival meal that completely rejects modern food presentation. From the freezing fjords to the intense underground fire pits of the Americas, Cabeza Tacos. An entire, fully intact cow's head is wrapped tightly in thick agave leaves and lowered into a massive underground fire pit to slow cook for more than 14 grueling hours. This cooking method originates from ancient barbacoa techniques, where underground pits were used to trap heat and moisture, effectively turning the earth itself into an oven. This extreme, trap steam environment is required to break down the hardest working muscles on a cow's body. The cachete, or beef cheek, is powered by the masseter muscle. Since cows spend their entire lives chewing tough grass, this muscle is incredibly dense with actin and myosin protein fibers. The 14-hour steam slowly denatures these proteins, resulting in meat that pulls apart effortlessly and is packed with sticky collagen. But the true prize for adventurous eaters is the sesos, or the cow's brain. From a biological standpoint, brain tissue has virtually no muscle fiber. It is made up of nearly 60% structural fat and extremely high levels of cholesterol. Because of this unique lipid composition, cooked brain tastes exactly like a warm, savory, animal-flavored custard that dissolves instantly on the roof of your mouth. The chopped meat is piled high onto warm corn tortillas and immediately hit with sharp, acidic elements, raw diced white onions, and a heavy squeeze of lime juice to counteract the heavy fats. It is an absolute masterpiece of flavor and texture, provided the diner can mentally block out the fact that they are chewing on a cow's lips and mind. If hidden cuts of meat challenge your boundaries, this next dish places the entire animal right at the center of the table. Roasted pig head. A massive, decapitated pig's head is aggressively marinated deep into the skin with dark soy sauce, crushed garlic, and fresh lemongrass, before being slowly rotated over an open, smoking charcoal pit. This style of cooking is deeply rooted in communal celebrations, where the entire roasted head is presented as a centerpiece, symbolizing abundance and festivity. This roasting process takes several hours, focusing entirely on mastering the Maillard reaction. This is the chemical process where amino acids react with reducing sugars under extreme heat, causing the outer pig skin to transform into a blistered, golden brown, crispy shell. The skin becomes so dehydrated and hardened that it shatters loudly like thick glass when struck with a knife. However, beneath this intensely crunchy exterior, the internal face meat remains fully protected. A pig's face contains a very thick layer of subcutaneous fat. As the head roasts, this fat renders down slowly into liquid oil, continuously basting the muscle fibers from the inside out. This results in meat that is unbelievably sweet, juicy, and dripping with rich pork oils. Diners dissect the head by hand, targeting specific textural zones: the highly sought-after crunch of the roasted cartilage in the ears, the fatty, gelatinous chew of the snout, and the melt-in-your-mouth tenderness of the jowl. While locals joyfully tear the face apart at celebrations, the sheer visual impact of a giant, greasy pig's head sitting on a platter, teeth exposed and seemingly smiling at the guests, often leaves Western tourists entirely paralyzed with culture shock. And finally, we arrive at the heaviest, most intensely flavored culinary endurance test on the planet: pacha. A fully intact sheep or cow's head, complete with the skull, teeth, and tongue, is thrown into a massive, bubbling cauldron alongside the animal's trotters, or hooves, where it boils relentlessly overnight. This dish is especially common in parts of the Middle East and North Africa, where it is traditionally eaten early in the morning as a powerful, energy-dense meal. The inclusion of the hooves is scientifically critical to the dish. Hooves contain massive amounts of glycosaminoglycans and structural collagen. As they boil for 10 hours, These compounds dissolve into the water, transforming the broth into a remarkably thick, heavy, and sticky liquid that coats the back of a spoon. The soup is aggressively flavored with an overwhelming amount of crushed raw garlic, heavy salt, and sharp lemon juice. As the sun rises, the meat from the face has become so impossibly soft that it literally falls off the bone and dissolves directly into the greasy broth. The bare, dripping skull is then pulled from the cauldron and placed on a communal platter. The climax of the meal involves diners using their bare hands and sheer biomechanical force to crack the skull wide open along its natural cranial sutures to extract the brain. Eaten at the crack of dawn, pacha is a highly concentrated nutritional bomb. It provides massive doses of calories, zinc, iron, and vitamin B12, perfectly engineered to give manual laborers the physical strength to survive a brutal workday. However, the deeply pungent smell of boiling offal, combined with the visceral act of tearing apart a boiled skull, makes it the ultimate, final boss for any adventurous eater. If any of these dishes shocked you, drop a like and let me know in the comments. What is the absolute weirdest traditional food from your country? I read all the comments. If you want more crazy food history, click the video on the screen right now. See you there.